My next guest is Todd Bloomer. He has 29 years of experience in public education and 18 years experience in administration, and recently retired from being a high school principal, leading a campus of over 2,500 students. His extensive experience across middle and high school levels, talent for building positive campus cultures, and exceptional hiring practices has set him apart. As an author and coach, he offers valuable insights on educational leadership and effective communication. Mr. Bloomer's commitment creating a supportive family-like atmosphere ensures a dynamic and transformative coaching experience. You can get his information at the end of the podcast to hear more about his coaching services. Well, welcome to the podcast, Todd.
Well, Dana, thank you. And that intro, it was awesome. I guess I wrote it. So I appreciate you saying all those kind things about me. It's an honor to be here, and I'm looking forward to diving into our discussion.
Well, we got connected as we are both authors with the Road to Awesome Publishing, and we'll talk a little bit about your book in a moment. But I wanted to ask you, first of all, the time when you were in the trenches and managed to crawl out.
Yeah, great. Shout out to Darren Peppert, our buddy DP, as we're getting ready to rock and roll today. Like most administrators, I considered myself a very good assistant principal. I
Hmm.
got I got things done, books, butts, buses, you name it. Like that was the role 15, 20 years ago for an administrator. And I
Yeah.
became a principal, and it didn't go as I thought it was going to go.
Hmm.
And it was, nobody tells you in principal school how lonely the job can be and how you are the only one on the campus that is the principal. You don't have an equal peer on your campus. And a good friend of mine, Stu Guthrie, has an analogy to the principalship that is, you're the last door on the hallway, and
Hmm.
that just has a connotation that you're it. If somebody doesn't like what happened, they go to you. Somebody doesn't
Yeah.
like what a teacher does, they go to you. And pretty soon, I went from being um, wildly popular and the guy they went to for problem solving as assistant principal to the one that had to say no. And the
Yeah.
one that all of a sudden was, if you kick a rock and you find something underneath the rock, you got to address it. All of a sudden, I'm addressing things during my first year as a principalship, and it wasn't going the way I wanted it to go.
Hmm.
And honestly speaking, Dana, it was my fault. Like I failed to clearly articulate and communicate who I was as a leader.
Hmm.
And I thought people knew me. I thought people came in and read my bio. Well, they didn't. And while parents appreciated my positivity and my energy, and students appreciated being in the hallways and connecting with kids at a local middle school, the staff just was kind of taken back, and
Yeah.
stuff started to just really unravel. And
Hmm.
decisions I made went south. And I think I gave you the analogy when we talked earlier. I was stepping in quicksand every time I turned around. Like any issue that came up, like it just wasn't going the way I wanted it to go. And all of a sudden, I'm second guessing myself as an administrator. The stress level is starting to get at me. I'm second guessing decisions. I'm not having fun in what I'm doing. And honestly speaking, as I look back 11 and a half, 12 years later, it was me. If I would
Hmm.
have clearly articulated where I wanted the campus to go, my vision, who I was as a leader, the reason behind me being in classrooms and me never being in the office, if I would have articulated that, just stopped and called a meeting and say, guys, look, I'm sorry. We got off to the wrong foot.
Hmm.
And here's who Todd Bloomer is as a leader. And I think we've all been in that case. And then I'll even share it to one other, situation that got me in the trenches. When you become a principal, you've got great support systems and structures from central office, and they tell you, call me if needed. Well, I didn't even know why to call. Like, I didn't even know reasons to call. And I was not at the point where I felt I could be vulnerable with my boss to say I'm struggling. And so that compounded my stress and my, going south. And over the summer, how I got out of the trenches over the summer, I had to look in that mirror and I had to say, who am I as a leader? And I'm not going to be defined for being an unsuccessful principal. Like I worked
Hmm.
too hard to get here. And
Yeah.
so I had to change my approach. And I had to go through what I called, doorway and hallway conversations. And really, Dan, if you were standing at your door and you taught history or science or PE or band, I went up and I talked to you in between passing periods and I got to know who you were and you got to know who I was. And that really
Hmm.
allowed me to slowly dig myself out of that hole, out of that trench that I had gotten into. People understood who I was. People understood where my heart was. People understood that I had the same values, hopes, and support they did. Somehow we just got off on the wrong foot. And I clearly take pride in being a good communicator. And I felt if I sent out another email explaining it, people would be like, why are you over communicating? Why
Hmm.
are you doing? And so I was just a ball of mess, in really year two, hired well, pulled myself out of the hole, and ultimately had a great, tenure as a middle school principal, which allowed me to have a tenure as a great high school principal. And so my own doing was my trench. I fell in the hole because it was me,
Yeah.
um, and I had to dig out. I had to pull myself out. And I had to
Hmm.
realize I can do much better than this.
Hmm. Hmm. And I think you said you looked at yourself in the mirror. Was that something you were able to realize and self-reflect upon without any coaching, or
Yeah.
um, did you talk to any other principals or administrators for advice?
At that time,
Hmm.
I didn't have a coach. I didn't realize the importance of a coach. I'm 2014. I'm a baby administrator, and you know what? Like a lot of us, we've got great pride and
Hmm.
we're in who we are. And sometimes asking for help is something that isn't kosher in some jobs or at certain ages. I had great people that checked in on me all the time,
Hmm.
but I didn't have someone that I could call on the ride home from work and say, you know what, I'm failing.
Yeah.
And part of my mission now as a a leader and someone that's a thought partner with principals and someone that's trying to give back to the young folks is to say, once you get that first principalship, a month into your job, you got to have a coach lined up, someone in district and someone out of district. And that person could be someone that's a close friend, and those are great. And then it can be someone like you. You're in Denver and you're able to reach out to me and figure out what's going on in San Antonio, Texas.
Hmm.
And you've never been on my campus. You don't know. And that's what Darren Peppard has become to me. He's become that coach that is somebody. And so honestly, I got lucky because as a former teacher and a coach and an administrator, I took great pride on being able to get things done and troubleshoot. And
Hmm.
I thought, I'm not going to be defined as being a principal that failed. And
Hmm.
how do I need to do this? And lying awake at night and sitting there tossing and turning and realizing that it's me. I realized I had to go to those people that I wronged. I had to apologize to some people that I offended that I didn't mean to offend. And I had to say to them, just give me a second or third chance and I will show you through the body of work, who I am as a leader. And
Hmm.
then after that, found a couple people I could reach out to, a couple people that I could confide in, a couple people that I value, that I still value. And a lot of them were people that weren't as secondary administrators. They might have been an
Hmm.
elementary administrator, or they might have been a central office person in another district.
Hmm.
Vulnerability is a buzzword right now. But 12 years ago, it wasn't. It was a macho. It was an alpha male and an alpha female club where you didn't ask for help,
Hmm.
and if you asked for help, people shunned you or made fun of you or thought you failed. And
Hmm. Hmm.
at least today, it's acceptable. And it is almost like a given that you're going
Yeah.
to have somebody call and say, hey, can you run this scenario? What would you do differently? How would you wordcraft this? And kind of go from there. So I had to realize that on my own. And now I have a coach that I talk to every single day.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and we can talk about the value of coaching, but I wanted to talk about your book. First of all, the blueprint, Survive and Thrive as a School Administrator. Talk to me a little bit about just the writing process, why you decided to write the book, and then also about a chapter that's relevant in the book.
Let's go. Love it. I could talk about this all day long. The book was a email to my brother. My brother was transitioning from being a teacher to an administrator, and then the email got a little bit longer, and I started on a Google Doc of having some little tabs and chapters, and all of a sudden I realized I might have something in me,
Hmm.
and I got a passion project and worked on it. Woke up early in the morning and worked on it, got after it. Shared it with a million people, rejected by everybody under the sun. I'm not a quitter. Like one of the things I shared was like going backs against the wall. I'm going to come out swinging. So
Hmm.
worked on it, became a mission. I'm going to publish this book no matter what. And Dana, no lie, this is a 5, 6 year process. I'm
Hmm.
also transitioning to high school. high school principal of 2,500 is a 7 day a week, 365-day a year job.
Yeah.
Not a lot of time. And I couldn't work in my office. That's shortchanging kids. So this is something after hours, the weekends, to be able to work on. And so reached out to a million people. As I said, they all said, great, but no, thank you.
Hmm.
Good friend of mine. I don't know if you know Marty Silverman, but shout out to
Yeah.
Marty Silverman. Marty's a good dude, a good New Yorker that moved to Houston, moved to San Antonio. Lots of parallels that Marty and I have. He
Hmm.
connected me to Darren. Darren said, send me a chapter. I said, I got the whole book, Darren. I sent him
Okay.
the whole book. And I had in my mind a February 5th Amazon self-published date. It had gotten
Hmm.
to the point where I was been rejected enough. I was not going to bank on anything and I was going to self-publish. I had it 99% done. And Darren came in and said, I want to sign you. And
Hmm.
it was a really cool moment because I was the principal of Winston Churchill High School in San
Hmm.
Antonio, Texas. And we have this saying that Winston Churchill said of never, 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 never give up. And
Hmm.
it was one of his favorite, most notable quotes. And it's one of our favorite quotes to share in anything that we do. And so I felt a little Winston Churchill-esque as I
Hmm.
was getting this book published. And so the book went live in August of 24. I'm excited. It is a book that's received some good praise for being relevant, structures and systems, practical advice, suggestions, and from principals around the state and around the country.
Hmm.
And so it is really what I think a very relevant book. And right now, as we're coming into the summer month, I think
Hmm.
it's a great book to read by the pool. It's an easy book. It's
Yeah.
a book for you coming into the job or you have been in 5 years because it is relevant. You can highlight, there's reminders. And as I transition to my new role, I've
Hmm.
gone back to look and see how relevant my topics are as I'm going to be working with new principals in my next district. Now,
Hmm.
your second question was, um, what is my favorite chapter? And I
Hmm.
have 5 children. And
Hmm.
this is like saying which is the chapters is your favorite child. But I will say that chapter 6 of my book by far is my favorite chapter of the book. It is what I would do differently as a principal. And this has become kind of my talking point. This is kind of my passion right now. It's 10 actionable items that you
Okay.
can take away that I would implement today if I started my new job on July 1 as a baby administrator on July 1
Hmm.
moving forward. And most of it comes back to how I would take care of myself and my family. I did a
Hmm.
terrible, Dana, terrible job of any kind of balance. And balance implies
Yeah.
equality because, balance were equal. Like I was 90% work and 10% family. And the 10% I was at home, I was thinking about work, answering emails, answering texts, doing
Hmm.
something. And I'm lucky that my wife of almost 27 years loves me dearly and stayed with me. I'm lucky that my children loved me. I'm actually lucky that my children all went to my schools. And
Hmm.
so my children all graduated from the high school I worked at. So I was able to see them more at work than I did at home.
Hmm.
And every high school principal say that's the case, but my children were there. And so that was my saving grace. And I tell one story in chapter 6 of my book that really resonates, and I really would love to share it with your audience.
Yeah.
When my son was in seventh grade in Texas is the first year you can play school football. And
Hmm.
Friday night lights in Texas, that's really a big deal. And
Hmm.
my son played seventh grade football. Well, that was my first year at another middle school in the district. And so we played football on the same night. And
Hmm.
so I felt it was more important to be at my middle school football games of the students that I led my first year than to be at my son's games. And a lot of you might be shaking your head thinking, Bloomer, I wouldn't do that. Well, I mean, it's
Hmm.
a tough predicament to be in. It's your first year. You're
Yeah.
trying to make a good showing. And, I missed most of my son's seventh grade year. Eighth grade, I did a little better. Ninth
Hmm.
grade, he goes off to high school. We play on different nights, but we played on volleyball nights. So when middle school
Hmm.
volleyball was when high school football was. So I missed a little bit of ninth grade. 10th grade, he tore his left knee and missed entire 10th grade year. He rehabs, works his tail off, comes back 11th grade year, and 3 days into his 11th grade practice, he tore his right knee. And so
Hmm.
he misses his entire junior year.
Wow.
Junior year, I transitioned to the high school he was at. So
Hmm.
senior year, I'm on the sidelines with him, but he was 2 years removed from playing. He
Yeah.
never played. So I missed my son's seventh grade, his 10th grade, and his 11th grade year, and I'll never be able to get that back. And so in chapter 6, I really talk about moving mountains. And really, if you explain your why to your community to say, I'm at the rivalry games, I'm at the big games, but you know what? I'm not going to be here this Wednesday. If you don't see me, here's why. My son is playing. And
Yeah.
after I shared that story with the parents, they were like, hey, you moron, you need to be at your son's games. We
Hmm.
understand. We know that you love this middle school.
Hmm.
And I would strongly encourage that the greatest workplace flex is being at your children's events and being at plays and musicals and being home or taking them to school or picking them up as needed. And oftentimes we think if we're not there, the school's going to fall down. Well, you know what? I just retired and the school is still there.
Yeah.
And and we get wrapped up in who we are as leaders and thinking it can't go on, but it does. And so
Hmm.
chapter 6 is my favorite because it gives me actionable items. And two more just I kind of share is just your physical fitness and your well-being. Like
Hmm.
we neglect that. That's the furthest thing that we look at. We get home at 9 o'clock, we grab a hamburger and we go to bed and we think we'll work out tomorrow. And then pretty soon
Hmm.
tomorrow is 6 months later.
Yeah.
And our pants don't fit and our blood pressure's up and our doctor's worried about us. The job is already stressful as is. And so chapter 6 just talks about stacking habits and building routines also of your own mental, spiritual, and physical well-being. And
Hmm.
so while I'd love for everybody to read the entire book, because chapter 1 is all about your transition to the principalship, if
Hmm.
you fast forward to chapter 6, you would walk away from chapter 6 saying, this is pretty good stuff. And I think it would inspire you to go back and read the entire book.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, thanks for the tip. And I think that's a great example with your story about like a lot of principals think they need to sacrifice what's going on with their family or going to their own kids' events, right? And you do have to learn that balance. And like you said, you learned it over time, but you lost several years of his playing and the games he was in. So
And
um,
I'll never be able to get those back. And if I could interrupt you 1 second
yeah.
before the next question, any principal that's out there listening now has to model that for his assistant principals
Hmm. Hmm.
because the model that I saw was the red badge of courage for working first in the parking lot, last to leave, longest
Yeah.
hours possible.
Yeah.
And they were great men that led me. I love them. They loved their families and they took care of it, but they worked the hours.
Yeah.
And now our job as principals is to know that Dana's daughter
Hmm.
has a dance recital and on Wednesday she needs to leave a few minutes early and I need to tell her pack your bag and get out of here before the buses go so you can be at your child's event
Hmm. Hmm.
because Dana's not going to come tell me that because Dana wants to impress and be the first and
Yeah.
the last. And so it is our job to know our assistant principals that we lead. And it is our job to tell them, sometimes force them to leave
Yeah.
early. And
Yeah.
we need to model that also. And we need to encourage them to say, if you've got a kid event, tell me. Now, you
Hmm.
can't miss graduation and big events. We all know that. But on a
Hmm.
random Tuesday, bus duty just isn't as important
Yeah.
as your kid pitching in a baseball game.
Hmm. Hmm. Talk to me a little bit about the pitfalls that especially younger administrators fall into, since there are several people getting appointed to the principalship without much AP experience, or sometimes not many years of teaching experience, and they might just be starting a family, or they have very young kids, and they might be kind of falling down that path that you did initially.
Couple things just off the top of my head. First thing you do when you come into a new school is you carve out an hour and you
Mhm.
meet with your secretary. Your
Mhm.
secretary has to be your right and left hand. They need to be
Yeah.
able to control your calendar and honestly control your email and control who has access to you at what point they have
Hmm.
access to you.
Yeah.
My early career of my first year of failure, principal shows up and principal wants to, I'm sorry, parent shows up and they want to see the principal, come right in,
Hmm.
and I listen to parents and sometimes teachers viewed that as supporting parents.
Hmm.
As through the years, I realized that if Dana, you came in and your daughter had a question about band,
Hmm.
well, that needs to go to the band director, and that's a band
Yeah.
director question. And I don't claim to know who the third tuba in the band should be or why your daughter's
Hmm.
not the second tuba in
Yeah.
the band. And
Yeah.
so those are things that like we need to not delegate in like a bad word, but we need to delegate that to our the lowest man or woman possible. And our directors and coaches and appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I met with my secretary daily, and we reviewed my calendar, and she looked at what was on there, and I knew and she knew what my priorities were. So
Hmm.
as I became a better principal, my priorities were time in the classroom. And like I blocked off time in the classroom because if you don't block it off, it doesn't happen. And my
Hmm.
secretary knew unless the superintendent called or the school was literally on fire, when
Yeah.
I'm in the classroom, that's important to me. So I think the first thing a baby principal could do is get with your secretary and have a good relationship and know if a parent calls and says, I need to speak to the principal,
Hmm.
empower your secretary to be able to, in polite ways, ask, how can I help you? He's in a
Hmm.
classroom working with teachers. How can I help you? Oh, it's a band issue. Let me get you to the band director. And if the band director doesn't call you back by the end of the day, you call me directly,
Hmm.
secretary, and I will follow up with that. But our band director will follow up with you and reassure parents that they will be heard because while they bark and say, I want to hear from the principal,
Yeah.
they just want to be heard. They
Yeah.
just they just want to be able to heard with that. Second of all, is when you come into a new school, you don't know it all. And part of my failure my first year was I was very successful and I thought I knew it all. And
Yeah.
honestly, nobody wants to hear about your previous, well, my previous school, this is how we did it.
Yeah.
Like your school has great customs and values and traditions and things that like you need to embrace. And
Hmm.
so everybody knows to sit back and ask and just observe. But we come in and we get going and we're excited and one thing leads to another. And next thing you know, we're trying to change the way we've always done the welcome back event for parents or the first
Hmm.
day for students to be there. And like teachers are like, what are you doing? This has worked for 20 years. Who's this guy to
Yeah.
come in? And that, you unravel that way. And so really meeting with key stakeholders and Jimmy Casas, a wonderful speaker and author, and I'll call him a friend. He shared with me one of the greatest things to do is twice a year to have 15-minute meetings with every teacher. And
Hmm.
that's tough on a campus of 150 teachers.
Yeah.
But you send out a couple questions, and I would suggest the early principal for my last, suggestion is I would suggest that you send an email over the summer and say anybody that wants to come up, I'm here all during June and July and August, and I'd love to have you answer these three questions.
Hmm.
What do you love about your campus? What's advice you would give me? What's something that you would never want changed or you would be disappointed if it didn't occur? What's something that we're kind of below average in? And I
Hmm.
always add this extra one, and I think this is a real eye opener. Who's that one person on your campus you always go to when you need something? Like,
Yeah.
who is that person? Because that gives you as a principal great insight. And then they can talk about them for all of them, one of the questions, and you take notes and you listen and you develop themes, and teachers appreciate and you break down. And now all of a sudden, I know Dana. I know a little bit about her. Here's what she's given me. Heck, she's been here 25 years and she shared with me this. Heck,
Yeah.
the last 25 people have shared. Don't get rid of the Meet the Chargers pep rally because it's the greatest pep
Hmm.
rally in the world. Well, don't get rid of it. Like,
Yeah.
like don't change it. Like it's
Yeah.
not rocket science. And so I would say, listen, listen, and then listen some more
Hmm.
and be visible and let people know how happy you are to be there and build your relationships with people. And I see principals that come in and go 10,000 miles an hour and
Yeah.
nobody slows them down. And then they're burned out by November and the
Yeah.
staff is like over you by October. And so
Yeah.
we've all seen it, but
Yeah.
it's part of my trench that I fell into my first year.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, some very important tips there, I think. Like you said, you might have a large staff, but it is just prioritizing when, sending those questions out early, asking if, they have time that might not be the traditional time, during the school year, but if they want to have that chat in the summer or, to have that opportunity, like you said. And it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody who's just coming into a school, but I think having those questions yearly, because
Oh yeah,
those, answers can change. You're going to get new staff who come on board and really gives you insight, right, into the culture.
100%. And one of the things that we did this year
Hmm.
is we held these meetings outside. Can you
Hmm.
hear the fire drill that is going off in the background or no?
I see flashing lights.
Okay. Obviously, there's a fire drill going off in the background. They're just testing something.
Hmm.
So a terrible time for that to go off. So I would encourage
Yeah.
current principals to hold these meetings outside or during passing period or lunch duty
Hmm.
as you're walking. And so breaking it up of getting you out of the office, because if you have 150 staff members and you are having to be in an office, that's multiple days that you are tied to your office. And
Yeah.
another strategy I think we would all share is you can't lead from your office. And
Hmm.
so we can't be there. And so one of the things that is just really important is that you're out and about and seeing the people. And so I held our meetings because we do them twice a year, and I've been at this school for 6.5 years. And
Hmm.
so we do a December and we do an end of the year one. And the one in December was held when I do outside lunch duty. So come by, find me, and we'll talk outside. And
Hmm.
it gets you outside. You're with kids
Hmm.
and you're able to be outside, but you're still able to get insight from teachers, and they do appreciate that time. So I think that's very valuable.
Yeah, and that goes along with my philosophy as well, getting out of the building and, doing those walking conversations
Mhm.
with teachers. The principal's office can be intimidating for some teachers. And like you said, getting up and moving also helps like with the thinking process. And yeah, I think people are more comfortable when they're in that space that's not confined to those four walls.
I will share with you my retirement gift
Uh-huh.
this year was my name on a red bench outside
Ah.
attendance office.
Uh-huh.
We have a very large campus, nine. I led a very large campus of 9 buildings, and probably 30 acres.
Mm-hmm.
And you went outside, and we're in South Texas, and you can do that most of the year. And I
Mm-hmm.
was able to sit at a red bench, and I had numerous meetings and met with teachers and students at the red bench. That
Mm-hmm.
was Bloomer's bench. And at
Mm-hmm.
the very end of the year, one of the most humbling gifts that I ever received was a placard on my bench that said Bloomer's Bench 2019 to 2015. And that was one of the most humbling gifts that I've ever received because it meant the world to me,
Mm-hmm.
because I would sit out there throughout the day, and it was twofold. I could monitor traffic, I could see which kids were always in the hallway, I could connect with kids, teachers that walk by, they could sit on the bench with me. I drank my coffee outside, and Dana, it gave me a little bit of peace in the
Mm-hmm.
morning to know that I could get my job done.
Yeah.
And we're both probably the same age. I'm probably a little bit older, but there was an old commercial called Calgon Take You Away. And
Mm-hmm.
somebody was in a bathtub, and the
Yes.
shampoo or the body wash or
Yeah.
whatever, the bubble
Yeah.
bath relaxed you.
Yeah.
This was my Calgon take me away moment. And I would sit
Uh-huh.
there and I'd look at a busy highway in front of my school and
Yeah.
think I was at the coast or the mountains or the
Yeah.
peace. And somehow in my mind, it got me right for the day.
Yeah.
And so, as I'm offering advice and support as we move throughout for principals, you have to take those small moments during the day in which you ground yourself and you
Yeah.
take a moment for yourself and think everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, we got this. I'm at a very good place because self-talk is so real. And if I
Yeah.
continued to believe every email or complaint, I would have quit in year one.
Mm-hmm.
But we're doing lots of good things, and we need to recognize that. And sometimes in quiet moments of reflection with a
Mm-hmm.
cup of coffee early in the morning, we can give gratitude and thanks and think, I'm pretty good at what I do. And I'm pretty good at what I do because I've got a strong faith in the good Lord, and I read the Bible in the morning. I'm pretty good because my wife loves me, because I have a strong family system. I'm pretty good because I have great people around me. And I'm pretty good because I really care about my school. And at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, I can lay my head on the pillow at night knowing all that. I couldn't do that in year one or two as being a principal. It took
Mm-hmm.
a long time to get there.
Mm-hmm, hmm. Yeah, I think that's so important that you mentioned this bench and how that grounded you, right? And like, even though there's busy traffic outside or, whatever's going on outside the perimeter of the campus, like, to take that time, right? It could be 10 minutes, it could be a half an hour, but like, yeah, to be grounded, I can't think of many principals I've heard from who actually have like seen that as like something that is that sort of meditative space because there's so much going on in the building, right? There's but you've talked a lot about the emphasis of not only taking that time outside, but also going into the classrooms, right?
Mhm.
And like whether, if the superintendent is coming or there's a fire, right? Like those are the only things that should get you out of the classrooms. Like,
Mhm.
the secretaries, your administrative assistants should be able to handle the other things that come into the office and delegate.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So you did mention that you are now retiring, and let me know a little bit about what your role that you're going into is, and also what you would like to do on the side in terms of speaking.
Yeah, thank you. I never thought I'd leave this job. Like,
Hmm.
I'll just say that. And, I grew up in the great state of New York, and I wanted to be two things when I grew up: shortstop for the Yankees, and wasn't a
Hmm.
very good shortstop. I wanted to be the fourth Beastie Boy, and that didn't work. And so the third thing I wanted to be was the principal of Churchill High School,
Hmm.
and that worked out for me. And I just finished my 6.5 year, and it was my best year by far.
Hmm.
And job satisfaction at an all-time high, student satisfaction, parent satisfaction, trending in the right direction of everything. And I'm leaving on that note. And
Hmm.
because I feel like I'm able to hand it off to somebody to take it a little bit further than where I couldn't get it to. And
Hmm.
so, because I wrote a book, and because I want to become a principal coach,
Yeah.
I'm transitioning to the Archdiocese of San Antonio, Texas. I'm going to work with Catholic school principals and in a newly created position as the director of school leadership. And
Hmm.
my hope is that I'm able to give some guidance, some wisdom, confidence, a sounding board, and
Hmm.
be able to give to people what others have given to me or what I've learned the hard way. And
Hmm.
so I'm excited. So I'll start this job in July of this year.
Hmm.
And it's given me that shot in the arm that I feel like we need.
Yeah.
I've been a principal almost 11 years. That's like in cat years, 100
Yeah.
years or something, right? Throw COVID in the middle of that, because
Yeah.
let's be honest, if you were a principal before COVID, it's totally different. If you're a
Yeah.
principal during COVID, crazy, and after COVID, crazy.
Hmm.
And so I'm going to transition to that. So on the side, I have started speaking to leadership teams,
Hmm.
to large groups at conferences about how to find your blueprint. My book is titled The Blueprint, as you mentioned. So, how to
Hmm.
craft your own blueprint. I've got a keynote that I've delivered that's very successful. That's entitled "When Putting Yourself First Isn't Being Selfish." I think I'm speaking about some things that I learned the hard way that resonate with people. And sometimes you just need someone to say, it's okay to do that. And this is how I've done that. Currently coaching some principals now, and would like to expand that. Very small.
Hmm.
I told you in our deal, I don't want to, I don't want a lot. I want to be able
Yeah.
to provide some small, some coaching, because honestly, if you start getting 10, 12, 15, 20 people you're coaching, you're just sending text messages, and you're not able to really
Yeah.
provide the support that you need. And so right now I have two people I'm coaching. It gives me great value. It gives me great satisfaction to listen and
Hmm.
to ask good questions. And then third, to offer suggestions to them after getting to that. And so
Hmm.
if there's any listeners out there that say, I need a coach, I need somebody, I'm looking to take one or two more people on over the course of the year to kind of go from there. But I am looking to kind of expand a little bit more of the speaking gig. I have done some team building and some team bonding. And
Okay.
I found some great satisfaction in coming together with leadership teams to help them craft mission and vision statements,
Hmm.
which is obviously very important. I've learned that through 11 years of being a principal.
Hmm.
And I have a new endeavor. If your campus is looking for a student empowerment in
Hmm.
which you empower your students, mainly athletes,
Okay.
to make great change on a campus, I have a program called the Huddle.
Okay.
And concept is, in a huddle, we're all friends. And in a
Hmm.
huddle, we don't care what nationality, religion, socioeconomic background you come
Hmm.
from. All I care about is, are you going to block for me so I can score a touchdown? Are you going to
Hmm.
pass me the ball so I can dunk it? And then why does that break down? And why is society broken down now to the fractions of where we're at? Because at schools, in huddles, we're all friends.
Yeah.
And I pick you up, you pick me up. I loan you $5, you loan me $5, and it works. And then when we get 25 years old or 50 years old,
Hmm.
we're ruining society. And so that is something that I think has a great value that could really transform campuses, to be able to come in and really speak with, empower students. As much as we want to change the world, we've already proven we struggle at that,
Yeah.
because news, our change is in our student body. And
Hmm.
so if anybody is listening, I am also very affordable. That is the thing that I think I value myself on. I undersell my product
Mhm.
because I truly want to help.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'd love to be a millionaire and be Aaron Judge and the Beastie Boys and make and
Mhm.
fly, but
Mhm.
that's not what the world's about. People gave to me for free, and while I
Yeah.
don't do stuff for free because everything costs, I am very affordable and I want to make things work. And I've made things work with school districts because I feel like if I can come in once or twice, you're going to want me to come back long term, and that's where the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
And so if anybody, because I know right now budgets are tight, and like people are saying no, I'm able
Yeah.
to make just about anything work for what we have. And so I've crafted things. The other day, a principal reached out to me and said, "We don't have a teacher handbook." And
Mm.
so I've developed a teacher handbook based on what I developed that for some reason we never implemented on our campus
Yeah.
called your teacher handbook. And it's a
Okay.
Google and it's a Google Doc. And if you reach out to me, I will share it with you for a very small price.
Yeah.
You plug and play your names into the stuff, but it has structures and systems on discipline and instruction
Mhm.
and supervision, and it's 50 pages of a Google Doc that you could use and take and go. And it's a click of a share of an email for $35,
Mhm.
for you to have a handbook.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Heck, I was going to pay $100," and I was like,
Yeah.
"Well, you sure can. You can still pay me $100, but it's $35 for something like that." So it's an affordable thing because people have shared with me things or I bought things, and we've all stolen in the past. The
Yeah.
best educators are thieves. And so honestly speaking, that's my passion now, is helping others and finding ways around barriers to help
Yeah.
others be successful.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you've mentioned a lot of stuff there in what you can offer, whether it's keynotes, whether it's working with students for empowerment or working with leadership teams on mission and vision statements and even developing a teacher handbook. So I think if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you? You said you've been more active on social media more recently.
Oh yeah.
And tell me a little bit about how that's going.
Well, great. And the more recent part is Instagram. Like
Uh,
I was a wonderful Twitter pioneer. In
yeah,
2009,
yeah.
we had the first Twitter page in school in the city of San Antonio. So we were fired up
Wow.
about that. So I'll just run down the list. If you're out there on X now, I'm Bloomer underscore SA. If you're on Instagram, I am Todd underscore Bloomer underscore author. And I'm putting out reels, daily reels on Instagram, where I'm sharing tips and tricks, tips of the trade from a retired principal. And I've generated a lot of buzz, a lot
Hmm.
of questions. Um, Heck, a lot of book sales. Honestly, I should have done this earlier if I wanted to sell books, was the reels on Instagram. And it's crazy because most of the Instagram reels are when I'm done running, because I'm also trying to model for you like self-care.
Yeah.
And so trying to do that. At LinkedIn, very, very active on LinkedIn at Todd Bloomer. And you can reach out to me on my website, which is toddmbloomer.com. And
Okay.
Gmail account is bloomertodd98 at gmail.com.
Okay.
And maybe you can link those in some show notes. I went over them quick. Any of those platforms you reached out to, I will find a way to get a hold of you. And while I'm not going to share my cell number on here, because I do have great students that listen to all my podcasts, I will gladly, once we connect, reach out via text to call. I have done, I will share, Dana, one of my other services that I have done for very cheap is I've given an hour of time of my day to coach you through the interview process.
Okay.
Questions that you might expect, feedback on how you
Hmm.
answered them well or what you could have added to that, that has had great value in people's landing the job that they wanted. Nothing breaks my heart more than on Facebook to see in those assistant principal
Hmm.
pages or principal pages people saying, um, fifth interview and I didn't get
Yeah.
a, and so sometimes you just need to know how the rules to play the game. And
Yeah.
so I've done three of those in the last probably 3 weeks.
Hmm.
Of two got a job and one we're still waiting on. And it's
Hmm.
not me because they have the answers inside.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just need a sounding board. And
Hmm.
so, if, it's another one of those very affordable Venmo purchases that you send me, but
Hmm.
it is I've been in a lot of interviews and I know what to say and what not to say, and I know what to highlight.
Hmm.
And I have reached out and developed a bank of questions about 8 or 9 districts in and around San Antonio of
Okay.
current questions that are being asked. And
Hmm.
while I don't tell you what district it is,
Yeah.
just questions that you need to prepare for. And so,
Yeah.
honestly, quick phone call, some success, and I do feel great pride. And people, a lady from New Jersey was the last one who got a job that I don't know her,
Yeah.
but I feel like one of ours was successful because she got the job. And so that's what we do. We give back.
Yeah, I think that's so important because as somebody who has those years of experience as an administrator, who has interviewed people for AP jobs and who was on the other side, the other end as an interviewee, like really giving back and helping people with that process that can be tedious and frustrating when you don't get the job after many interviews. So
Mhm.
thanks for letting me know about that as well. Well, out of everything we've talked about your coaching, your book, your ahas, after your first year as a principal. Out of everything we've talked about, what's one thing you'd like listeners to remember?
Your family is the most important thing
Hmm.
in your life. And my wife is my best friend and my champion, and she took a back seat unfairly to my job,
Hmm.
and that's not fair to her. And if she said, "Hey, let's plan something tonight for dinner," and I said, "Great," and then
Yeah.
something came up at work, and I'm lucky. And so while a high school principal of 2,500 has a lot of responsibilities, you need to build something in at least once a week with your spouse that you do that
Hmm.
is something that you put on the calendar, and we call that Sunday Fun Day. And
Yeah.
Sunday Fun Day is a holiday. Don't plan
Hmm.
anything else. Like, don't we're not doing X, Y, or Z. We're going somewhere in town that is around a good burger,
Hmm.
maybe a walk, maybe live music. Sometimes we bring a friend of ours, a couple of friends that like to do the same thing, but it is something that we put on our calendar and it is sacred time to us. And
Hmm.
people may be out there thinking, well, I do that every night with my wife. Well, great. I never got there
Hmm.
because like I work,
Yeah.
I work a 12-hour day every day,
Hmm.
and it is what it is. But Sunday Fun Day was something that we really put on our calendar. Something that we have done more of the last couple of days. And if my wife Sharon is listening, we play a game of Connect Four every
Okay.
night. Pick it up for $10,
Hmm.
set it up on something, a table in the house so you see it. Keep score, don't keep score. But I have won
Yeah.
the last 7 games of Connect Four versus my wife. And honestly, put the phone down, play your wife, talk about your day
Hmm.
during that game, and play the game.
Yeah.
And it leads to more conversations and more in-depth stuff. And it leads to, after the game, continuing to talk and forgetting about doom scrolling or the phone.
Yeah.
And so I would say do that. And then when you're at home, my last bit of things I take with this is my wife and I love the TV show Curb Your Enthusiasm. Larry, shout out to Larry David. I hope you're listening, Larry David. 12 seasons. We
Hmm.
watch an episode each night.
Yeah.
And that is our way of sitting there, no phone.
Yeah.
And it's 30 minutes. He's the producer of Seinfeld, if you haven't watched it. And it is extremely funny. And it is something that we look forward to. So we play Connect Four, we eat dinner, and I go for a run, she goes for a walk, and we come back. We may go for a swim. And before we go to bed, it's what episode are we on and can we watch it? And those are just our connection moments. And, Dana, if I could have done this 10 years ago, I might have stayed in the game 20 more years. Like maybe
Yeah.
not because I'm
Yeah.
29 years in the game, but
Hmm.
like I didn't, and I'll never get that back. And so I have to make up the time that I'm at now. So I've really realized wherever I am, make it the most and make it enjoyable. And because I'll never get that time back. So
Hmm.
Sunday Fun Day, quick game of Connect Four, and Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's the secret to marriage also out there. Where's Dr. Phil when we need him, right? We'll tell Dr. Phil we just solved the divorce rate in our country right here. Let's
Well,
go.
thank
Let's
you.
go. Let's go.
Thank you for those tips because I think a lot of couples who've been married a long time do, come up short when they're thinking of activities. So thanks, thinking about the games and the show and, really setting aside that time if you're a busy principal on Sundays or, some other time during the week where it is
Yeah.
that sacred time.
Mhm. Can be jumping in the swimming pool for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It is taking a walk.
Hmm.
It is those small things instead of because you're like, well, I don't have time to do that. Well, yes, you do because you sit and we watch TV or scroll
Yes.
on Facebook. Instead of that, say, let's go for a 10-minute walk, and then it's good for your soul and your mind. And vitamin
Hmm.
D is great, and it's just pretty soon leads to an activity of a healthy life and a healthy marriage. And so, I think everybody's got time, and if you make it a priority, you'll find time for what you prioritize. And so, and then lastly, put it in the calendar.
Hmm.
Like we started off by talking about how important the calendar is. I calendar when I'm going to go for a run versus when I'm going to go to the gym. And if I got a long day, I'm going to have to get up and go to the gym in the morning.
Yeah.
Or you know what? Saturday I got something at 9 o'clock. I'm gonna in my calendar, my reminder, I'm getting up at 6:30 to go for my run because I can't in South Texas run at 11 o'clock because it's
Hmm.
100 degrees. And
Yeah.
so you have to calendarize that. And you could say, I'll do it tomorrow. But like I told you, tomorrow leads to 6 months from now. And then all of a sudden you've gained 15 pounds and you can't run 40 feet without wanting to quit. And I'm not a good runner. I mean, if you look at me, you look at, I'm not a good runner, but I do it. Two
Yeah.
miles a day keeps the doctor away. That's my saying. If I can do
Hmm.
2 miles a day, like I'm going to be in better shape and health than what I was the day before. And
Yeah.
that gives me fuel to do anything that I need to do.
Such good tips, I think, for everybody who's listening. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for being my guest on the Out of the Trenches
Oh,
podcast today. It was a pleasure hearing about your experience and your ahas, along with you had plenty of great insights for leaders who are listening. And I'll make sure all those links and social media handles are in the show notes.
Dana, I appreciate that so much, the connection, you taking the time. I also appreciate you banging the drum with the podcast of amplifying the voices of people that are out there doing the good work. And there's so many of us that are out there. We're no better than any of them. And
Mhm.
you're giving people a platform to be able to kind of share and spotlight. So I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you for that.
Thanks.